But the burden of it is verse 13. And it talks about God is great, beautiful situation, all the great things he had done, about Zion, so on and so forth. But verse 13, it talks about 12 walking around, all around the marquee well or bulwarks. And then it said that ye may tell it to the generations following. And that was a real burden of this. And before we pray for the children, we're very thankful to have a service dedicated to them. The critical part of any faith that there is, the critical part of any faith is a real focus on youth. And I appreciate the congregation here, the pastor, the saints, and the focus on young people.
Amen.
That
Amen.
is given the Amish, the Muslim, the Catholic, the Mormon, all these faiths that are growing and growing and growing. They have a tremendous focus on the youth.
Yeah.
Tremendous focus on the youth. And we really appreciate that. On the flip side, anytime a society wants to be destroyed, or there's an attempt to destroy a society or a faith or anything there will be a tremendous focus on the youth. Right now there's a strategic focus on removing all boundaries in regards to the way young people perceive the world. The way they perceive the world is quite different than the way many of us that are older even perceive it now. We were, on Friday, invited to, the state of Michigan had ministers that were against or for traditional marriage met nobody. And as we were up there, it was just amazing the systematic, strategic destruction of the young people's mindset in regards to what is normal. And they were talking about the homosexual agenda, but even there, they said that President, when he was running for office, he pretty much said that he agreed with civil unions, but he didn't agree with 2 men and 2 women married. Well, as his term began to progress, he had I guess a news broadcast, whatever it was, and they said they had evolved. And they asked him, the interviewer said, what happened to you? Why did you evolve? You started out saying that you didn't think that a man and a man should marry, but you said, like, if there's a partner dying, you feel they should have the right to go visit them. But you said you evolved, and now you feel that a man and a man should have the right to marry. And they said, what caused you to come to this conclusion? What was it? And he said, my daughters, Sasha and Malia. They had friends that had 2 mommies, so on and so forth. And they came home, and they were like, Daddy, that's not right. They should have every right. And he said, it hit me. He said he evolved because of his children. You'd be shocked. They're putting strategic focus on changing the children's perspective. Things that make you say, oh, it don't make them say, oh. That's the first start. So it's going to take a serious amount of prayer to guard their foundations. What they consider as normal, to stand against the tide, to stand for what's right, to stand for what's proper. You'd be shocked if you knew the pressure that they're under. You're older, you're at home, you understand that this whole tide is shifting now. The whole element, the whole current is totally for them to leave the confines of home into church and to go out into the world and maintain what we've all put in them is tremendously difficult. It's tremendous. They're sticking out like a sore thumb. If they say anything, matter of fact, they've been taught in the curriculum and everything that that's no longer proper. They got one thing that they're pushing, and that is that gender neutrality, and you'll begin to hear more about it. And that's basically teaching the teachers, don't tell the child what gender they are. They have to decide that. Don't say boys line up here and girls line up here. Don't do that. You're being discriminatory. You can't tell. How do you know which one's a boy? Because God already made that decision. That's how we know which one is a boy. But they're telling them, you don't make that determination anymore. You simply, maybe you say, those with brown shoes line up here, and those with white or gray shoes line up here. Or use height or whatever, those taller than such and such, or what eye color, whatever it is, but you don't use gender, and the whole purpose of it is to destroy everything that God has ever put in His Word for our children to have for the generations following. So we definitely want to pray for the young people and our children in regards to the base and the foundation of Zion and the foundation of what God has given us. But pray more earnestly than we've ever prayed before. Ever prayed before. Because it's much different now than it's ever been before. If we're not careful, they'll think it's normal. And they won't say, look, I'm going to tell you, I thought that a boy with a boy in like younger ages, or a girl with a girl at younger ages, we used to have a man, and I'll say his name because well, maybe he used to ride his bike up and down Francis Street. And there was two of them. And they would ride their bike up Francis Street, go up to that. It was such a stigma that we would run in the house and we saw them coming. Or run back and we would just say, that's them, that's them. And it was, but right now I can walk into the high school. And it's a boy with a boy. And this is the big one. We just had, they had a diversity meeting at the library, and they had all these students from the high schools walk in. And they were all of this persuasion. And I'm in the school and I'm looking and I'm like, and the children, that's not what gets me that they were like that. But what got me was that all the children were just like, it's normal. She likes a girl. I mean, it's not even like, I don't like, stay away from me, I'm not in agreement with that. It's almost, if you're not in agreement with that, you're going to be messing up. If you're not in agreement with that, they ain't going to be friends with you. It's so changed now that the pressure that's put on them just to stand for the principles that's been put in them is just about as steep. So they have a tremendous amount of pressure in the school and in society itself. We also, before we had prayed, I really appreciate the pastor and his burden. About 6 years ago, it was a heavy burden upon me. The community, I've always had the mindset, I believe that a church shouldn't be just the congregation church, but it really should be the community church. Follow what I'm saying? It was a burden because as in the 70s, in the late 60s and 70s, it was like anything happened in the community, second thing out your mouth was Church of God. 80s, Church of God, this, that, and the other. But it was almost as if there was an aging taking place. And critical issues would happen with the young people, and it would just be different people that they would call, just different random, just different. And I just, man, Lord, the mindset, I appreciate the community children walking in, is that we want the mindset that if something happens, the community knows this is your church. If anything crisis develop, we want the first phone call that you made. This is your church. This ain't just Ireland. No. If there's a funeral, if there's whatever, we want you to know this is your church. We are here for you. We'll stay with your family. We'll labor with you. This is for Jesus. He spent a lot of time out. He was like, man, I'm the world's Messiah. And the Jews, they struggle with that because they're like, no, he's coming. He's our Messiah. He's not their Messiah. And they had a huge dispute. I was studying yesterday, I believe it was in Acts. They had a huge dispute because they were like, no, he's the Jews' Messiah. And they was like, no, Jesus is the world's Messiah. He's here for the Gentiles as well. Whosoever will, let him come. So we really wanted that burden. God has blessed that. That's what the plays, VBS, all of that is not really for us, so to speak, but it's really an effort so the community knows. And God is really blessed. I doubt that there's a significant event in the community, in the penal system, dying, or whatever else, in which somebody doesn't call the church and saying, can you guys come down here? The police chief, whoever it is, just last week, when they had the issue, what was the boy that just died by the in St. Louis area? Michael Brown. The police chief called. And he said, is there a meeting that can happen in case this spills over? They were afraid that it would be a spillover effect. That they would like start off there in Detroit, Chicago, next thing you know, you have people rallying and people looting. And they said that we were thinking of bringing some of the community together to discuss, if this was to happen, how should we go about it? And the powerful part about it was that one of the first phone calls, Church of God, saying, what can you guys, I see you guys are really, really connected to the community and to the young people and to the community at large. Can you give insight? So we really want to pray for that as well, saying that God will continue to help the congregation to have an influence beyond just the four walls, but to the community in general. And lastly, I want to pray that God would bless those that are saved, the young people that are saved.
Amen.
We pray for them all,
Amen.
but we do want to really pray for the young people that are saved. I began to write down a list of people that were saved in the last couple, 3 decades or whatever, that didn't grow up in the church. And as I began to go down there, matter of fact, at this conference I walked up to, and we want to pray that God would help them to truly be a light, to be saved for real, to have some fire down in their souls at the school, not to be ashamed of their profession, but not to have mom and daddy salvation, but to have something for themselves. That when they go to school and there's some ungodly movie that they got to watch with this, that, and the other, and I appreciate Brother Antoine, he said, that's what I never forgot. He said, I never forgot that D.D. Jones was at Jackson High, and they had just some ungodly movie that they were trying to show all the children. It wasn't nothing to do like history or a curriculum or nothing like that. It was just some, and they were trying to make him. And she stood up and she said, I'm saved. I'm a Christian. She said, I'll go to the library, I'll write a book report, I'll do whatever you say do, but I'm not watching that. Here he was years later and said, I knew y'all different. I knew there was something different about the experience that they had. And I began to write down different young people. And I was at this conference this Friday, and one of the leaders that spoke came up, and he said that, Hampton. I said, yeah, how you doing? He said, man, how you doing? And he began to talk about, he mentioned Sister Angela's name, Brother Edward, his name was Radar John. He said, I remember these young people at Jackson High, they had prayer meeting. And I thought about the youth leader before, sometime before me, Brother Jerry. But they had prayer meetings. They had these prayer meetings at the school, and they were so fervent that one after another began to get saved. And I was thinking about even Karina, even though Karina grew up here, if IT would come and set a heavy burden for a friend in school. And it was Karina. And I think about Brother Antoine, or Brother Victor, it was prayer groups. So I really want to pray. A lot of the groups, Sister Shannon and Barbara, several of them have come in because of young people. I remember Court when he invited Antoine and Darrell to go to Springfield meeting. And I remember the day he walked in. And as I began to write down all these names of those who got saved and didn't grow up in church, it was because of young people in school and in college with fire down in their souls. Go back to the 70s, Brother Charles Wimby and all, Ralph Payne, all. The church really grew. Really, barbershop and young people at those schools. Brother Thompson brought in a Revelation chart. I'm not saying take a Revelation chart, but Brother Thompson brought in a Revelation chart to Jackson High. You know, Brother Sanders, all the parks. But we really want to pray for those young people that are saved, that God would really help them to be serious about it, to let their light shine, and to truly make a difference. Without further ado, Pastor, you also pray.
Good enough here. Good. We're dealing with so many serious situations. Now, I'm going to judge us now. We can do something about the parents. Maybe you should charge some of them. I told you when I was on my way to Charleston, South Carolina, and there was a fellow from Jerusalem. He was sitting there, and I was on standby. And the young men were rioting and cutting up around here. If they do that in my home, the government would bulldoze their houses. If you can't control your children, then you don't live here. We'll tear your house down. We're going to be responsible for your house. I'm going to tell you, God wants us responsible. Everything that's in your wall should be under control. Regardless of what? Right. Regardless of age.
That's right.
80 years old.
That's right.
If you're under your auspices, I appreciate the stands, the firm stands that you're taking down through the years, being ostracized and criticized and everything else. One of the young ladies graduated, and Jim was required. You all remember that, I suspect. And so she said, well, I don't wear shorts. I can't. She said, well, you have to. And she said, I'm sorry, I do not. And so what happened was, one of the teachers, who were at church there, said, I talked to her, no, they're for real. I'm not going to change, they're for real. And God just took care of it, and eradicated it. But you can't graduate. You see how extreme they are. If you don't concur with the thing, they'll make it as difficult as they can. And anybody will well under that. When they pull the panic button, then you'll change. Well, then everybody do that. When the sun is shining, so do one. We're thankful for these children, but many of them don't have foundations. Sometimes things take their grandchildren, fighting with the mothers and fathers, if they have fathers, should have done. But nobody replaces the parents. Nobody. In fact, even now, there are certain classes they must take in sex education. Well, just a moment here. I teach my own children that. You're going to come with all this graphic stuff here, and whatnot, and pervert their minds. And we don't need that. In regard to what you say, in regard to what the consequences might be. You're already lost. We don't make it in the people. We want to pray earnestly for these precious young people. Whether it's grammar school, elementary, high school, college, graduate school, all the way through. Somebody was showing me on Facebook or something a few months ago. And he says, look here. He said, now, I was ex-pastor. He was my pastor at one time. And I guess it's on there now. And in the hair, he had blonde wig on. I mean, in fact, he was pretty fine. He was pretty foxy. Anyway, and they're breathing. There's no shame. They don't blush. There's no shame about it. There's a status symbol, in fact. There's a status symbol. So may God help us out, these children. We're going to pray earnestly for these children. But now the parents got to stand. What you seek to say to like, you're going to lose it. What you trying to say by compromising with the system, with your children, you're going to lose it. So you trust in God, you trust God in anything that comes to you. And that's what faith is all about. And that's what's been lost. So we're going to call these young people and the entire congregation. We're going to gather around them with all of these sincere and behemoths that we possess. Yes, we are. And you'll never, or maybe in eternity, you'll see what was wrought through this prayer. And how God reached forth his hand and saved them what would have been otherwise a destruction of a sort. So we're going to do it. So we're not just playing no game here in the Tiddlywink. So we want you to come forth here and be in total agreement. You might not have had children, but of course they are children and they are ours. So we have a common interest. So why don't you come, shall we, gather around. Take your time, gather to the front, everybody. And we're going to pray for the parents too. We're going to pray for the parents as well.